Just 1 second. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Daan Marks. It's actually my first visit here to the residence, and it's beautiful to be here. It's also good to see so many familiar faces. I see a lot of World Bank staff, people from the embassy, private sector, and I'm myself a true believer in the combination of aid and trade. And I'll talk a bit about the trade side in a minute, but I also want to show a little bit about the aid side and what the bank actually tries to achieve. And the private sector could be a partner in trying to achieve these development results, and therefore this short movie. Just to give an impression about what the bank does, this is mainly focused on IDA, in Frank's presentation, the Fund for the Poorest, but it always inspires me a little for what we work for. I'll discuss briefly what the private sector can do to help the World Bank to achieve these goals, ending extreme poverty and boosting shared prosperity. And actually, I drove here with Frank in the car, and we discussed the presentation. And now I found out that he stole actually 3 of my slides already. We'll get through it. So my main message would be, and I think it's very familiar to most of you, the bank is extremely complex. I've been around here now for 10 months, and I think I now more or less understand the bank, but still it's a confusing, sometimes confusing institution. So you have these 5 entities, IBD, IDA, IFC, MIGA, and then also something called ICSID. There's 6 regions, 14 global practices, 5 cross-cutting solutions areas, 25 EDs, 188 shareholders, and everyone has a voice and tries to influence policies. I think as the Netherlands we need to be extremely grateful that we have our own position at the board, being Frank, having an executive director within the bank really gives a lot of opportunities to influence policies and try to convince others of the view we have as Dutch people on development cooperation. I think it's also a great asset to have so many Dutch staff working at the bank. I think they bring a Dutch perspective to some extent, and therefore it's also good to see a number of them over here. How competitive the bank is, I don't think that I need, or I should tell you. I think you experience it every day, but what we see from a more distance is that it's global competition in the end. It's America, Brazil, China, Dutch, English, French, Germany, and I think you can go through the whole alphabet. So if you're, for example, a consultant, there are also Indian consultants who went to Harvard but now live again in India, and they maybe they might be cheaper, but from a shareholder perspective, is it different quality? I'm not always sure. So that's something I know you're aware of, but it's also, sometimes we hear concerns of Dutch consultants, and I think rightly so, but it's also the reality of today. And so it's more how you go about it. Maybe think about partnering with locals, local staffing, and have one Dutch person working within that team, because it also enhances your opportunities of winning contracts in those countries. So that's another takeaway for myself. And the third one is it's very much country-driven. So the bank, in the end, finances governments, IBD and IDA. The shareholders at the bank are countries. So if you want to be successful as a private business, you need to have local presence. Work together with people there, travel to the countries, know if there is a project, know exactly what they're asking, know the essentials, and know the people within the government, other private sectors people. So these would be my takeaways. Frank also gave them away already, but I think you cannot stress it too often. So about complexity. What we experience a lot, if people come to us as an office, or maybe to the Dutch Embassy, to Vincent and Bouk, is that they not always are entirely exact on what they are looking for. So sometimes they're looking for funding, sometimes they're looking for knowledge, sometimes they're looking for a consultancy project financed directly by the bank, so corporate procurement, but sometimes they are coming to us and they want information on a project that is funded by the bank but actually executed by a local government. And what we try to help people who come to us, and if you have any questions at any stage, please come to us, is help you navigate the bank, help you navigate the bureaucracy, and help to ask you hopefully the right questions like what are you actually looking for. And if you're looking for funding, IFC is the partner to speak to. I think if you're looking for corporate procurement opportunities, DC is the place to be, because most of the corporate procurement is done at the headquarters. If you're looking for opportunities to work on a bank-funded project, it's really in the field where it happens. Job in his introduction said that I would say also something about a recent mission I was on to Senegal and Ghana. It's not the focus of my presentation, but I was on a mission there with mainly Spanish, French and Canadian companies. And one of the participants, he told me, like, if you want to win a World Bank funded project, it takes you at least 3 years of investing in going to the country, talking to the people in the field, talking to World Bank staff, extensive traveling, and then it pays off at some stage. Hopefully, you don't have certainty. But it really takes long-term strategic engagement. And that is what we, from our place, but I would also very much like to hear your experiences, but what we hear at the ED's office, it takes a lot of investment. And it is important to think through if you want to make the investment. So that's the third takeaway. Then something else. So what we try to explain to a lot of companies is where in the process do you need to be present. So the project cycle of the bank works as follows. So the bank comes up with a country partnership framework in which they broadly describe in which sectors they want to work for the coming 3 years. From that, they start with project identification. From the overall strategy, they come up with more specific projects. And I think that for private companies, it's important to be aware of the country partnership framework. It's free, it's on the website of the World Bank, and it contains a lot of useful information. So, for example, in Ghana, there's a lot of, the bank is funding a lot of projects in the water sector. You can find that in the country partnership framework, and it could be a very good entry point to have a first discussion with people here at headquarters who work in the country, on the country or in the sector, or maybe visit a field office and discuss. So, and from there it gets, it's narrowing down. So the projects are determined, the projects are designed, and in the end there's of course loan approval, implementation, and then procurement starts. But if you only come in there, oftentimes it's too late and it's hard to win a project. So here, one of the lessons I've learned from talking to a lot of people is be involved early in the process. Then another thing that we are confronted with quite often as an ED's office is that something goes wrong, unfortunately, in the implementation of a contract. And then what can we do? And the difficult thing is that in the end, it's a country that's implementing the project. And World Bank is not a partner to the contract. So it's hard for the bank to be hands-on in that case. That's the legal perspective. At the same time, I think we are we can be quite influential in managing the relations. So if it's a legal dispute, the bank really cannot do too much. If there is something that needs clarification, some intervention, could be very helpful. And then the Dutch embassy is always the entry point. As an ED's office, we have our most important role is our fiduciary role. So we want to avoid any conflict of interest. So then the Dutch embassy is the entry point. And there have been, I think we've been very effective in bringing parties together and solving the issues. So, given this slide, the bank is not a contract party, but as Dutch people we can try to solve issues, as long as it's not a legal dispute. Then about competitiveness. Some lessons I already touched upon, I guess, and hopefully very familiar to you. And again, who am I to tell this, but this is what I take away from talking to a lot of people. So, be engaged, be systematically engaged, be early engaged, and follow up. But also try to use the resources that are available. Again, the Dutch embassy to start with, but also us. We're there, we are very willing to answer any questions, help you to set up meetings with people. So I'll get back to the information on that in the last slides. Then another thing that's going on now, the procurement rules of the bank are being revised at the moment. The system, how it works now is that it doesn't matter if the bank is procuring pencils at headquarters or a major road project in Rwanda. The rules are saying the procurement system is the same. And I think the current guidelines in that respect are kindly overdue, and the bank at this moment is actually modernizing its procurement policy. And what we've done as the Netherlands is we have tried to engage in that process heavily, I would say, constructively, but also critically. And throughout the process we have been, I think it has really been a cooperative exercise with the private sector. So many private companies, especially based in the Netherlands, have also been involved in the process, have spoken to a lot of World Bank staff, and I think you see in what, it hasn't been finalized yet, but the direction it goes to, you see a lot of our influence, I think. So, what is going to change? Value for money is going to be the core principle in the new policy. It used to be mainly lowest price bidding. In the new guidelines it will be value for money. So much more focus on quality. There will be much more, I think, a procurement strategy. So the strategy is becoming more central. There will also be more a bigger role for the procurement division within the bank in advising people who design the project and how the procurement should look like. And then, as I say, value or quality is getting a much more important role. So it's not about the price; it's what you get for the price. And there are also technical ways to deal with that. And one concern we've heard also from the private sector is that the standard bidding documents would be not longer be the default option. I think they will still be there, and I think they will be the default option, although there are maybe there will be room to do it otherwise. About the process, last week there was or 2 weeks ago there was a last consultation round in the Netherlands organized by the Dutch Ministry for Foreign Affairs. Again, I think a very what I've heard back from Bouk, very engaged discussion, constructive again, and also most Dutch private companies are actually pretty happy with how the new policy is going to look like. So I think a very positive development. So the proposed changes, you can read when we distribute slides. I think very promising from a Dutch perspective. Then my final words, we're there to help you, and especially again the Dutch Embassy, they do quite a lot to help, to reach out first of all. There's this blog NL for the World Bank, a Twitter account, and also a newsletter that was just sent out yesterday, I guess. So the embassy is reaching out a lot to you, and I think that's very good. And there are the contact details of Bouk and Vincent, where I think the first ones to contact. And if you have any questions, also we as an ED's office stand ready to help you, and that's Frank, our colleague from the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, Mark van der Velde, and myself. So if you have any questions, if you like to speak to people from the bank, you don't know how to navigate it, please contact us, and we'll be very willing to help you. And